Disclaimer. This real couples not available online may be reviews, but this video may be purely fictional. Many characters was intended for either product of group's imagination or efficiently. Thank you and enjoy podcast Sweet Talks.
Welcome to the very first episode of Sweet Talks, the show where we uncover the secrets to maintaining, preserving, and improving relationships with our loved ones. I am Arelle.
And my name is Sophie, here to deliver you with what you need to hear. So sit down and find yourself a comfortable position as we're bringing you today's sweet tea.
Joining us for today's episode is a couple who is beloved by many and who will walk us through their first impressions and challenges of being in a relationship. Without further ado, let us all welcome Fred and Bea. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Hello, my name is Fred.
Good evening, guys. I'm Bea.
Good evening, Fred and Bea. We're glad to have you here in today's episode. To have one of the Instagram-worthy couple adored by many here on our show is not just a blessing to us, but to the viewers as well.
First things first, how did you guys come to meet each other? And what are your first impressions of one another?
As far as I remember, we met via a common friend at church, and I suddenly remembered Proverbs chapter 13, verse 30. Charm is deceitful and beauty is vain, but the woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. The next thing you know, we started hanging out with each other.
The rest is pretty much history. What actually caught my attention was his sense of humor.
And I thought Bea was pretty cool and interesting.
So, how did you guys know that you need or wanted to be in a relationship?
Whenever I talked to her, I felt like this is the person I would like to spend the rest of my life with. Everything with her felt right.
Well, for me, the most important factor that I saw was that he is God-fearing. He always invites me to go to church every Sunday, and during our dates, we take trips to the church.
Aw, those are some wonderful epiphanies, Fred and Bea. Indeed, I have also read a similar passage about couples giving themselves to each other from the Catechism of the Catholic Church, or CCC 2364, which states that both give themselves definitively and totally to one another. They are no longer two. From now on, they form one flesh. The covenant they freely contracted imposes on the spouses the obligation to preserve it as unique and indissoluble. But being this famous on social media, you are deemed the perfect couple by many. Do you guys still encounter problems with one another? What challenges came your way?
Well, of course, there are still problems. Trust issues and time conflict or some.
Don't forget about miscommunication and jealousy.
Oh, I see. Trust issues and jealousy, huh? Well, I read a passage from CCC 2365, wherein it mentions that fidelity expresses constancy in keeping one's giving word. I too believe that cultivating fidelity between a couple is essential to have a healthy relationship. Well, now with the challenges of a relationship that you experienced, how did you solve it in a way that both of you did not invalidate each other's feelings?
I think one of the best solutions to such conflicts is openly communicate.
Well, we pretty much sorted each conflict by speaking what's on our minds and listening to how this instance has made us feel.
And we do not prolong this issue. If we argue at that moment, we have to fix it right away.
We think that it's actually very important to put God in the center of every relationship because it stabilizes its foundation.
That's quite interesting. I think tons of our listeners would love to learn from you.
Well, that actually was insightful. My partner should take notes. Moving on to the next segment, how do you preserve the health of the relationship? Like, how do you guys deal with the boundaries and the like?
Like the answer to how we deal with problems with one another, we usually talk it out.
We actually talk about how we want to deal with the work environment, personal environment, and whenever we feel like we invade each other's privacy, we let the other party know.
Treating this relationship as a confidant is absolute. However, we must recall that we have lives outside of this relationship as well.
So before we end this lovely chat with you guys, would you give our viewers some tips or advice that they can apply to their own relationship?
Oh, okay. Well, for me, I think that we can say is that we think of love as goodwill. Love will always be a form of service, and we should always give our loved ones the best that we can give. I also had this realization from one of my favorite Bible verse quotes, which goes about love. Love is patient, love is kind, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It's from the first book of Corinthians, chapter 13, verses 4 and 6.
On my end, love is nurturing and it grows. We do not stop when we find the person for us, but develop into a version of ourselves that would be better for our partners.
So thank you for that wonderful advice, Fred and Bea. And we're most welcome for having you guys here. I hope that our listeners learned a lot.
And if we reach 10,000 likes, we might invite Fred and Bea again soon with a couple of other guests.
But until that happens, thank you for tuning in. My name is Arelle.
And I'm Sophie. Tune in next week for another episode of Sweet Talks.